I want to thank you all for coming. This is a really good turnout, and pleased to have as many people in the room as we do. It can also often be difficult sometimes to get people to come out and participate in things when you need a good discussion. To have a response like this, I think, is excellent. Tonight, what we have planned basically is to talk to you guys about the field house. This is kind of a unique situation for the school district, because what has happened here is we have a group of community members, many of them are involved in the Athletic Association, who see a need. And that need has been seen for a long time here at our school district. And that need is additional athletic space, particularly gym space. Spaces where you can do multi-purpose activities, practices, things like that. Just to give you a little history on this, because I oftentimes, if you're new, you might think this is the first time this conversation's come up. And this conversation's kind of been an ongoing one since I've been here, since 2010, but it's also been a conversation before that. And there's been other attempts to address the needs that they're going to talk about tonight. Those have been through levies, through building projects. I know the first issue that we put out tried to address this very issue as far as outdoor locker rooms and some things like that. We're on the levy back in 2012. That one lost by about 90 votes. And then we scaled it back because we weren't sure if we had the support for it at that time through tax dollars. And this basically is a continuance of that. This is another way that we're going about this, trying to solve an issue that continually repeats itself. And it's interesting because there are different players who are talking about it as time goes on, because different kids are impacted, and people's kids go through the system, and then it's no longer as big of an issue for some families, but it's always there. And that's what we're going to get to talk about tonight a little bit. They're going to share with you the Athletic Association tonight. They've been raising funds, and I don't think probably too many of you will be surprised by that. That's something that's been ongoing, and they're working on it. One thing that the board formally did in January is we went ahead and approved a resolution, basically to say they have our blessing. Athletic Association, please go out and raise funds for this project. And through that process, once you have funds, the board basically said we'll support it and we'll do it. Why would we do that as a board? Well, I think it's fairly evident, and I don't want to speak for the whole board, but if there's a need and the community is seeking a solution to it, we want to be in support of that. And so far, there's been certainly a lot of support already. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the folks who are going to be talking to you tonight. Tonight, Ryan Cole is going to share some information with you about the vision and kind of what started this and got this process rolling. Jake Vitt's going to come up and talk to you a little bit more in detail about some of the needs as far as our athletic facilities go. And then Athletic Association officers, Shane Godwin, Eli Wilcoxon, Jamie Harrison. They're all sitting up here. Lucille Burden and Josiah Wade. He's probably back there somewhere working the video machine. They are all going to share information with you as well and help out answer questions. And then we have two school board members here tonight that are on the athletic liaison committee, Pat Adams and Chris Mayle, who will be basically also assisting to answer questions. This group started meeting, I'd say about a year ago, and started basically working on and discussing and talking about their hopes and dreams of trying to be able to find a way to build a facility that would be able to help the students and community here west of Salem. And that's what we're going to talk about with you tonight. So with that, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Ryan Cole.
Good evening. As Craig said, my name is Ryan Cole, and I was asked to share some history behind the Tiger Strong Fieldhouse. The building of a field house, as Craig said, has been a goal of the Athletic Association for many years. In fact, in recent years, they've been setting aside funds toward this project. As probably everyone here knows, on January 20th, 2017, we had an act of evil committed against our school and our community. However, the response to that evil was to show that light overcomes darkness. Tremendous love and support was shown to our family by the community, That same love and support was shown to our school by so many other school districts. Likewise, our school teachers and administrators to our students, and by our students to each other. In the months that followed January 20th, Jake Fitt met with Jason and I, and we were discussing the beautiful response that had been a result of such an ugly situation. And how it would be neat to be able to show our thankfulness in some way. And it was at that time that Jake came up with the idea of the Fieldhouse project, and in some way partnering with the Cole family in a fundraising effort to accomplish this goal. The goal would be to build this building with 100% donated funds. We believe that the community and local businesses would be excited about supporting this project and being part of giving back to a school and a community that had done so much. And as you will see later, we were correct in our assumptions. As discussions moved forward, the idea of building an honor room in the foyer of this building came about. On January 20th, there was a tremendous amount of heroism displayed. Logan, Greg, and Andy, teachers and staff, our students, all of these heroes chose to put themselves before others. I've heard Greg talk about 7th grade boys who formed a semicircle around the 7th grade girls to protect them while they were sheltering in the classroom. That day and the days that followed are best described with some of the following terms: selflessness, heroism, compassion, bravery, and most of all, love. The idea of this honor room is to celebrate those attributes. This room is not intended to be a shrine to any one person. This room is not intended to commemorate the evil of January 20th. Quite the opposite. This room is to celebrate the massive amount of good that was a result of that day. It is possible, and maybe even likely, that no student who graduates from West Liberty will ever be a professional athlete, although certainly we want to provide as fine of athletic buildings and facilities as we possibly can. What we do know is that each student that graduates from West Liberty is likely to be a parent, a community member, an employee, a spouse, a member of society. It is the character and attributes above that we should encourage and promote with our students. These are the things that will determine our students' future success in life. It is our hope that this building and this honor room will help inspire future generations of students to value and to develop those characters and characteristics that were displayed so beautifully on that day and in the months that followed. Next, Jake is going to come up and speak to the purpose of the building.
Thank you, Ryan. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jake Fitt. I'm the athletic director. The purpose of our building, I guess, first off, if any given day, if you would walk through the hallways of the West Liberty Salem here after school, you'll see softballs being pitched, you'll see sprinters sprinting, you'll see Science Olympiad kids on their hands and knees practicing their projects, you'll see cheerleaders practicing their cheers, you'll see soccer kids running and sprinting, cross-country kids, and so on. The reason for that being is we are a huge lack in the gym space. Our gyms are occupied, and every night right now, booked until 9 o'clock, every night of the week. And currently we're within the midst of basketball season. We started baseball and softball today. I would say that, again, for the next 3 or 4 weeks until the weather clears up and we can get outside, that our gyms will be occupied constantly until 9 p.m. Those of you who have younger kids that participate in the youth activities, the common complaint that I hear from you all is that your kids always get the crappiest gym times, and they do, because they're on the bottom of the totem pole, and that's usually the 7:39 block, if that even happens. We experienced the problem big enough this year to where we even had to utilize Adriel's gym, which ended up costing these youth programs money. So that's the number one need, I guess, that I see coming out of this project, is more gym space. But not only with the gym space of the multi-purpose room, it creates an avenue for every sport to participate and practice in the off-season 12 months out of the year. With the elevated track that we have proposed, there will be no more running in the hallways. In our current building, the kids can use that for running. All sports can use that for running. With the multi-purpose room, we're not talking about just a gym floor. Soccer can practice in there. The track team can move their pole vault mats in there and practice pole vaulting and high jumping. And so much more feasible than the wear and tear that we put on our current gym floors right now. The field house, like I said, the additional gymnasium, but the other attributes to it are the weight room. Basically, if the football team is working out in the weight room, there's not room for anybody else in there. And they work out 4 days out of the week, so the other sports kind of have to work around that schedule, and it's just not very feasible and quite fair to the athletes. And I say the football team just because they have the biggest numbers, but you can't feasibly have more than one team in our current weight room. So in this proposal that we have, the weight room is quite a lot bigger. The indoor running track, it's no secret, we're known as a running school for our success in our running sports. So it's not a safe place to walk around here after school in the hallways because our kids are running the halls. So luckily, there's been no casualties up until now, but this would be a real sweet thing to be able to have the kids be able to use the indoor running track. And I already talked about the indoor training facility for our out-of-season sports, but also what's not on the slide is the restrooms for outside athletic events. Nobody likes the porta pots, and that definitely is our plan. If you want to click to the next. The outdoor restrooms and locker facilities are in the plan. This is nothing final, and I think it's all in your drawings that you have at your table, but it kind of gives you an overview of wishes that we would like to see take place. And I do want to stress that that big room, it looks like a basketball court, but it will not be a basketball gym floor. It'll be a multi-purpose type floor to where it can handle all the different sports. I shudder right now that baseball and softball are using our gym because they want to be able to pitch live balls on that gym floor while it marks it up. And so we let them, but it's not a good thing. Well, so here out in this room, it would be totally acceptable and just a lot easier for them to work out practice. So I didn't want you to be fooled by the way that the markings are that it's a basketball court. And clear around up top here, this stripes is the elevated running track. And then at the bottom are the locker rooms, the locker room facilities for all the outdoor sports that would be able to utilize those. Right now, everything that happens outside, every sport that practices, every football game, every evening activity that we have, they have to come inside and use the locker rooms inside, including the visiting team. The visiting team comes in and uses the same locker room that our girls basketball team uses for a basketball game. So this would be a huge addition to be able to offer to our kids. And then of course to you all, the bathrooms. They're all on the bottom, and there'll be ample bathrooms for all of the attendees to sporting events. And then in this bottom corner is the foyer, the honor room that Ryan spoke about, and that would be the main entrance to the building, the way we have it planned out right now. So. And like I said, that drawing is mimicked in your flyer, so I'll turn it over to the next guy. Thanks for coming.
Good evening. I'm Shane Godwin, I'm the president of the Athletic Association. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. We didn't know how many people were going to be here. It could have been, this was a great turnout. I'm very happy. I know the rest of the board, the rest of everybody involved is very happy as well. As far as the Athletic Association, some of the stuff that we've done, our two biggest money makers every year is Labor Day and the reverse raffle. A lot of you people in this room may not know anything about the reverse raffle, but everybody knows about Labor Day. And that's always been the biggest fundraisers that we've always had. We started the reverse raffle. This will be our third year. It's on March 16th this year. All the proceeds for the last 2 years have went straight to the field house. We have raised over $100,000 just the Athletic Association in the last 3 years that have went into the field house fund. The Labor Day, it speaks for itself. You guys, and it's not just us, it's not the board. I mean, everybody's involved. The coaches work their tails off for the things that they do because they know that we're going to get back to their programs. Each and every one of you probably flipped a hamburger or cooked a brat out at the Labor Day Festival, and we appreciate it. And it takes a full community, it takes a full school to be able to do what we've been able to do. We appreciate all of that. Strides taken, starting with, we'll start with the stadium lighting. We have, that was basically the old Boosters Club. And since we started the new Athletic Association, we have helped pay off the stadium seating. We put the basketball backboards in out in the new gym. We help Jake with uniforms every year. We have an online store now that we started in the fall. The teams that participate in the online store get 75%. We pay them back 75% of the proceeds of what each one of their teams sells. It's a good little fundraiser for the teams. All they got to do is just get on there and buy something. We just bought a brand new basketball shooting machine for the basketball teams. We help with team meals. Each one of the varsity teams can come to us before their season's up. We give them an X amount of dollars so they can feed their teams. A lot of times they do it at tournament time and so on and so forth. We have in the past, or this past fall, we sponsored 2 youth soccer teams in West Liberty, which we want to continue to do that and be able to sponsor those programs at the younger level to let those parents know what we do, so that way when they get up to high school level, they'll know what we're all about. We pay for part of the senior banners. We pay for all the spirit, for all the hustle awards for all the varsity teams. We do 4 scholarships every year for the student athletes. And we have a committee that does that, sits down, has the interview process with the athletes that are interested, and then they pick brands and all that. We've given endless amounts of money to the weight room. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have tried to go above and beyond since we have taken over in the last 5 or 6 years to be able to make West Liberty Athletics as great as they can be. And we're going to continue to do that. And hopefully the next board that's in charge of this will continue to do that. As far as the donations and the funds raised, to date, we have 317,000 funds that have been donated that we have in our account. To date, pledged, we have $525,000 to be pledged. And there's probably people sitting in this room that maybe haven't even given a dime yet. But there's a lot of people that haven't. And we haven't asked people in our community to actually start emptying their pockets, but people have. And they've stepped up at the football games and they've given in. And then Jamie receives, there's probably not a month that goes by she doesn't receive some donations of some size from people. So we just want to continue to do this. We want to do it for the athletes of West Liberty Salem. We want to make the athletes of West Liberty Salem and the students, not just the athletes, but even all the students that, like Jake was saying, with the gym time and with the weight room, things that go on throughout the day, school day. This facility will definitely help with that. There's been a lot of questions around the community about what we want you guys to do. And as the president of the Athletic Association, all I want you guys to do is just continue to do what you're doing. We're not asking for a dime of your money. If you don't want to give any, and if you want to, we're more happy to see it. We need to get the word out there that, you know, this is just a totally donated project. And it's going to be that way until we unlock the doors and get to start using it. There's not going to be any tax money that pays for this. There's not going to be any levies that pay for this. And if it takes us 5 years to raise the amount of money we want to raise, then it takes us 5 years to raise the rest of the money. But you see the monies we have to this point, we haven't. I mean, some of us have worked very, very hard. But I think that if, you know, a total community effort, we can really knock this thing out apart. So, we are totally open to any more fundraising ideas. We meet the second Sunday of every month here at the school at 4 o'clock for Athletic Association or meetings, and anybody's welcome to come. Whether you've had kids in school, whether you don't have any kids, whether, you know. But come out, join us, help us out. Thank you.
Okay, so this part of the meeting is where we're going to try and hear back from you guys. And I think that's a big part of what the Athletic Association is hoping to get out of tonight is some feedback. So on your tables, there are sheets. And on those sheets, basically are some questions that you can answer that would help give us some feedback. There are also some space in there for questions that you might have to ask that you want to share with us. What we would like you to do right now is either independently, but even maybe better amongst the people at your table, talk with folks about some of the things that you heard about tonight. And the reason why that's important is none of this is written in stone yet. There are a lot of what ifs in this project. Some of those are is how much money will we need to raise in order to be able to meet the goals of what the community would like to see in this facility. It could go anywhere from outdoor locker rooms and restrooms to something much more grand. You know, when I sat down and we've been talking for a long time about the very basics of, wow, it'd just be nice to have outdoor restrooms. That turned into an explosion of, wow, it'd be nice to have a lot of things. And we would like to have a lot of things, but we also want to make sure that it represents what the community wants, what you guys think is good, what do you think you would support, what types of things you want to see in this facility. Everything from what they shared to other possibilities that maybe nobody's even thought of yet. It would be great to hear about. Other things that would be good to know would be what types of community value does a building like this have? Is this something that you would see adults using if they had opportunities to during the day or in the evening to come and utilize the walking track that would be up above or the weight room, those kinds of things? How important is that to you as a person in your community? Does that mean anything to you? Is that something we shouldn't worry about? If there's certain things that you think would help tip the scale as far as, wow, I think this is a great idea, or you guys should be trying to do this, this would be a lot better. You know, we would really want to hear about that now. So as you have an opportunity, we'd like to just give you maybe 10 minutes or so to look at these papers, talk to people in your group, discuss this a little bit, share your ideas and your thoughts, and then in about 10 minutes, we're going to have a time where you guys can actually ask some questions to our panel up here, get some information about where this project is at. And again, we want to reinforce that at this point, nothing is written in stone. And it's important that we get this feedback so that the Athletic Association knows how to move forward from this point on. To keep things moving, we are going to go ahead. You can keep writing where you're at, but we are going to go ahead and start taking some questions or any comments or whatever you might have to say in regards to the project, things that the Athletic Association can take with them and use constructively to try to impact or change some of the designs and thoughts behind this. At this point, there was a few questions that were kind of general, just about what's up here on the screen right now. This design that you see right now has changed a couple of times. It started out being a 100 by 120 foot gym or building, basically with not quite a full-size coordinate. If we looked at that, we said to ourselves, that kind of puts us right back to where we maybe don't want to be. It'd be nice to be able to have at least a full-size basketball court. So I think the current dimensions on this are 110 by 130 is what the size of the building is. So roughly 13,000 square feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. So with that, I do want you guys to have a chance to provide any feedback to the Athletic Association that they can take back and use to help them, or any questions that you might have on this. I do have a mic here. They have a mic up there. Sometimes it's hard to hear, so if you'd like to say something and you want some microphone on you, just let me know, raise your hand, and we'll start working around the room. Hey, there we go.
You didn't talk about where it's going to go. I've heard the baseball field is going to move, so can you guys talk about that? Yeah, that is the intended plan right now. This building would sit basically right here would be home plate of the baseball field, so we would have a new entrance. Somehow this would work. The dream is to have this be a new entrance into the stadium, the football and soccer stadium, track right over here. So you wouldn't walk through the current ticket booth area that we have right now. You would walk past this building and then gain entry into the stadium area, kind of where the home dugout is right now for the baseball field. So that's the plan. And I guess the elephant in the room is the baseball field, and the reason, I mean, it's a totally separate issue, but it's a huge safety issue, the location that it sits right now. Because foul balls being hit over into the track meets or track practice, anything that's going on in the stadium, people are getting hit all the time with foul balls, whether when we have baseball games going on during those events. So if you're interested in why the baseball field needs to be moved, that's the answer to that question.
I can add just a little bit to that. We did a site facility master plan this year with the board, and basically had a company come in and basically look at our site and say, hey, what can we do to improve some of the safety aspects, some of the traffic flow aspects, some of just the full accessibility to different fields, and how can we arrange things that would work a little better. Out of that study came basically what we kind of already knew, but they definitely supported it, was that the baseball field is kind of in a bad location. Because of where it is, it kind of landlocks the rest of the property behind it. So it makes it hard to utilize your soccer field back behind there and get parking where you could actually use some of those fields a little bit easier. So the thought is right now, and one thing that we're looking at, and probably going to go out to bid here this spring on, is the baseball field. It is a separate issue, however. Shane would tell you, I'll say it for him right now since I got the mic, but is this, they're looking to build this building whether the baseball field would move or not. So what the ideal situation, and what Jake explained to you, is kind of what the site plan looks like as far as where would be the best place centrally located on the property so that softball fields can access it, baseball fields can still access it, your soccer fields could access it, so that as you develop the facility, there would be a better way to utilize it and be able to have more access. So that's kind of the whole idea behind the baseball field from a safety standpoint, but then also from a future development of your grounds. And how the board kind of has come up with that portion of this so far. Any other questions?
Is the $1 million goal, does that include the relocation of the baseball field, or is that going to be a separate issue raised on its own?
$1 million. My name is Chris Mayo, by the way. I'm a school board member. The $1 million is just for the construction of the field house. That's what the Athletic Association is raising. Speaking as a board member, the baseball field is something that needed moved regardless of whether this field house was being built. I don't need to reiterate the reasons for that, but for anybody who's been to a baseball game or a track meet or even track practice, you've seen it. So that's something that the board believes needs to occur, whether or not the field house is built. And as a result, that's something that the board needs to pay for itself. The Athletic Association is raising money from the field house. It would be the board's responsibility to pay for moving the baseball field. And we tried to, in our discussions with the Athletic Association, tried to keep a very bright line between those two. Any costs associated with building the field house would be costs that the Athletic Association would pay for through the funds they raise. Funds that were needed to move the baseball field would be a board and school responsibility.
Anybody else?
I'll stand. Hi, I'm Mindy. I'm the athletic trainer here. I mentioned this to Jake a while ago, but I was just curious if you guys would consider putting in a new athletic training room in the new field house. There are going to be a lot of, if the football is going to be out there, soccer is going to be out there, baseball, softball, it'd be very beneficial to me to have access to them and to treat them out, in that facility. So I'm just wondering if that would be a possibility, because I have everything that I need, but I don't have space. And so that would be, I think, beneficial to all of the athletes of the whole community.
I think on the drawing, it might say officials changing area on the drawing that you have, but it's kind of my idea to make that room the training room. And make the officials change in their cars.
David, can you point out where that?
It's at the bottom, in between the restrooms and the locker room. There's 2 square rooms down here. Yeah, this says a coach's office and this says referee's office. And I'm not giving the referees their own office. So that would be the trainer's room. And it would have plumbing and all that because it's right next to the restrooms.
My name is Rob Loudon, and I have a question as far as size. To me, it looks like there's no baseball cages, or is there room for baseball cages for the baseball and softball teams? And if this is the case, would it be better to go a little bit bigger, so 5 to 10 years down the road, we're looking back and saying, well, we needed this, we needed more space. Can we expand off of it? I see the basketball court, but I still see issues with nothing going for baseball or softball.
Well, okay. To answer part of the question, we have planned to have drop-down baseball nets for batting cages. So those would drop down out of the ceilings. So they'd be stored in the rafters, and you'll see those a lot in gyms that you go to these days. So that would be, again, they would drop down out of the ceiling. Was there more you asked?
Is it going to be big enough?
Oh, it can be expanded, yes. There's a square footage requirement that put us over requiring for a sprinkler to have it be sprinkler the fire suppression system. Construction's really not my forte. And so we are at that maximum square footage, what we're at right now. You want to say something?
Early on, we were thinking that there was a square footage limitation for fire suppression. We talked to Link Construction, and they kind of said, no, that's not so we thought 12,000 square feet was the building limit size without having to be suppressed. They corrected that and said, really, it depends more on how much spectator, how much intent there is to have spectators in the building. And so, and really, the cost to sprinkle the building, I think they estimated at maybe $20,000 or $25,000. It wasn't horrible. So we did talk about the building being expandable, and I don't think the fire suppression is as big of an issue as what we thought it was initially. With regard to size, I guess it really comes down to what we can do from the standpoint of raising funds, I would say.
Hi, Jake. Ray McCall. Is there a projected maintenance cost on this building? And if so, who will pay for the maintenance of this building every year? Also, another question I might have is, will the current sewer treatment plant here at the school handle the overflow that we're going to put on this from the locker room facilities and so forth?
Yeah, thanks for that question. About a year ago, when we first started talking about this, we had asked our maintenance supervisor, along with our treasurer, to put together an estimate of the operating costs. And what they came to, just looking at supplies, utilities, all the routine types of things that go into operating that building, was a figure right around $22,000 a year. Is what they came up with as the operating costs for that building. Now, that didn't include any custodial time, which they estimated would be probably about 3 hours a day. And that was because we weren't sure exactly whether that was going to be a net 3-hour gain, because maybe some of the time that would otherwise been spent in school would be spending out there. So right around $22,000 a year was what the estimate was. In terms of who would pay for that, that would be the school's cost. The school would own the building, so once the athletic association raises the funds, gets the building built, pays for the building, that building would then be owned by the school after that. So like any other asset the school owns, the school would pay to maintain it. Kind of like with the football bleachers. The athletic boosters built that, they built it for the school. And, it's the school that maintains those bleachers since they come out and use them out for football games. So that's how that would work. Did that answer all your questions?
Yeah, one on sewer as well. I'll just briefly take that one. The sewer plant was designed basically an oversized back when it was built in '88, so it has plenty of capacity to be able to handle additional flow to that system, so there wouldn't be a concern there.
I guess I have two parts here. In addition to raise, does that cost, the operating cost, does that include liability insurance to cover with communities here and the students are here too?
That is not one of the areas that was broken out.
I can take it. Liability costs in that area would be the same as it would be for now. I talked with our insurance person. Basically, it would fall underneath our same insurance plan. There might be some additional, just because you have an actual physical addition, to the size of your facility, but the actual limits as far as injuries and things like that, all your other insurance, which makes up the bulk of some of the things you're paying for, those would be the same.
And the other part, a lot of you know, I'm a retired teacher, but I also coached here and other schools. So my foot's in both sides, educational and athletics. And I'm wondering, during the course of the school day, when I was teaching, if I wanted to take a class over there, is that going to be open for me to take a class, number one, for educational purposes? But then if the community is in here using the facilities at the same time, how is that security for my students with community people in the building at the same time going to be covered?
Those are, you want to take it, Jake?
Well, I'll start, and whatever I don't cover, you can finish.
All right.
That's a hot topic. I don't think it would be open during the day necessarily for the community to just go in freely and use. If it is, we definitely have to work something out that way.
Would it
Right.
be open for students, like non-athletic?
Yes, yeah. But at the same time, like our building right now is open to the community to come in and use, walk the halls, not during the day, but in the evenings. And we have a process in place, when groups want to use the gyms or any of the facilities, they've got to, file a form and fill that out and schedule through me or the office. So I envision that being the same way with this building.
I think you did a good job on that, Jake. I would just add to that, I think it's a little early probably to even answer that question because we don't know exactly how this is all going to play out. There are examples of places that have opened up their facilities during the school day, depending on what the schedule would be. I think the priority though that I guess makes sense to me is it would be for the students first. And if there are times throughout that day then that there are blocks of time that we can advertise to the community, I think there are certainly processes we can put in place to make sure that the areas are secure, that basically people kind of sign up for a little membership or something like that so that they can be able to go and use the facility and still be able to benefit it as a community member. So I think I'd like to be able to see that occur as much as possible. And again, I just don't know exactly how the schedule and those types of things will work out yet, even what the final design is. But that's a great question.
Can somebody go up there and point out what each of these rooms are? I cannot read this little thing in the brochure. I can't read the wording. Yeah, I got new glasses and still don't help.
This is for you, Faith. Okay, so right down here in the lower left is a locker room. And that is the home locker room and it's closest to the stadium. So that would be used for all of our, basically our boys' sports, football and soccer would use this mainly. Those would be the two main ones that would use that. So then like for an away football game, the visiting locker room is up here. And it's much smaller. It's got showers, bathroom stalls in it. I'll come back down here next to the boys' locker room. This is the restroom for the locker room and a bigger shower stall. Again, we have a coach's office. Next to that is it's labeled referee office, but that is where I think the training room would be. And this is all divided here, so that would all be accessible from this side and then the outside down here. So if you, as the public, come into the building, you're going to enter here through this foyer. And again, this right down here is where the current concession stand is. So you're going to walk past this to get into anything that's going on at the stadium outside. You walk into the foyer, and here's the public restrooms right here. Then there's a doorway that goes into the multi-purpose room. There's a doorway that goes, and this is weight room right here. This big thing that goes around that's marked like that's the elevated track. And there's steps from the weight room that go up to access that. The weight room is basically the whole length from the foyer over is the whole length of the building. The school sits over here, just in perspective. And this up here is storage, much needed outdoor storage for track mats, for baseball, softball, football equipment, whatever it is that we need. There's a big overhead door right here that will make that easily accessible. And then there's also a offset space in here for storage for like whatever equipment we have in here that can kind of slide off to store things in. What there is not in this area, there's at least in this drawing, there's not a lot of room allocated for like spectator seating and bleachers or anything like that. We have no plans to put bleachers in this because I don't foresee it being a spectator area. You guys think I'm missing anything?
The whole upper, other than the visitor locker room, that whole area is storage.
Storage, yeah. This is locker room. Weight room. Weight room goes from here to there. And then this is storage right there.
Are there any concessions incorporated in this building, or is it going to stay remain separate?
It'll remain separate. Yeah, the steps right here take you up to the track. And the track kind of is a balcony effect that would go over the multi-purpose room. And it kind of goes, it's kind of cool, the way it's drawn up, it goes over the weight room as well. So there would be a little, I don't know, like a doorway access that you'd run through from room to room as you're running. Any other questions on that?
Ben Griffin. I have a couple questions. Will the weight room take place where the weight room is now? Will that weight room be gone upstairs?
Yes, the plan is all those weights would go outside, and I bet your next question is going to be where the wrestling is going to be. So wrestling would gain access back to the way it used to be. They'll have the whole mezzanine here in the gym. You'd be able to have that all for wrestling then.
Would that be 12 months?
Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't be. Maybe just 11.
11.
And you don't need a microphone.
I don't need a microphone. I'm Ann Vogel, and I'm the girls track and field coach and cross country coach. Couple of questions. Is there a women's locker room?
Yeah, I
A
did.
women's coach's office that we don't have to share with men?
This is the women's locker room here. I guess it's labeled as women's locker room. But no, there is not a women's coach's office.
We'll get you an office.
But this is not labeled men's coach's office. This is just labeled coach's office.
Is there a bathroom in the coach's office?
Yes, right there.
Another question a lot of people ask me, what's the distance of the track and how wide, distance around and how wide? Well, I'm sure it's kind of way.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it is on this, but part of it too, the bigger the building, the bigger we can make the track. So the smaller the building, the smaller the track's going to be. So I guess the more money we make or raise, we can make the track bigger. And I guess if we,
Yeah, currently, that's about, it's like 50 to 60 feet this way, and it's like 100 feet. So you got about 320 feet of track up there.
And it's about 3 lanes wide, again, I think is how we said it.
3 lanes back.
3 lanes.
and if we raise enough money, we will make a women's restroom coach's office. I mean, I can't reiterate enough. This is just like dream, it's just initial drawings. nothing has been approved, stamped, or anything like that.
If the baseball and softball fields are going to be on the other side, could there be public restrooms on the other side for the baseball and softball fans to get to? No, it's not on there, but just curious.
Part of the site plan that they had, that the board had done, correct me if I'm wrong, but included in that long-term plan is in between the home plates of the baseball and softball diamond was kind of a concession area / announcing booth, but it also had restrooms in it. So the ideal place to put the baseball field, the home plates butt up against each other, and so that would be in the middle of that.
Early on, I heard, early on, I heard some possibilities of, in order to expedite this and get some use out of it early, possibly doing this in phases. Is that no longer discussion, or is that discussion?
No, that's been discussed for sure. We talked about getting the, and Craig, you can finish too. I mean, we've talked about just getting the shell up and making the outdoor restrooms and just having like a big wide open room with a gravel floor if we have to for the time being. But it's definitely, and that's something we've talked to the contractors about, and they said definitely it was feasible to do it that way if we wanted to do it that way.
That question's come up like 3 times tonight, and I think it has a lot to do with too, of how much money we think we're going to raise. Because we're not going to build this big monstrosity and not be able to raise enough money to finish it. So if we build this building and we know that we've got the funds coming in to finish it, to do how we want to do it, then that's our plan. But if we have to downsize the building, it'll be basically because of the funds.
We've also talked about inside the honor room having a donor recognition wall. So I would just say on that note, we're talking a lot about the size and what we might be able to do with it. I don't know how many people are in here, 100 people, but the fundraising piece of it, we need your guys' support. We need everybody's support. If everybody here could go out and raise $1,000, that's a lot of money. So I did just want to mention that we anticipate having a donor recognition wall. We're open to other fundraising ideas. We talked about bricks, for the entry area, as far as having people be able to donate inscribed bricks. So we're very open to your all's input when it comes to fundraising, and also your help when it comes to fundraising. There's a lot of really awesome things we can do, but unfortunately they take a lot of money to do it. So if you have questions about what you can do to help, come see any of us, because it's going to take a team to raise the funds.
Anybody else?
This is more maybe a statement than a question, but when I see the public traffic going through the foyer to the restrooms, I see lots of mud and dirt and trash, and I don't know if anybody else sees that as a concern, but if you go to track meets or even football games, the weather is not always awesome, and there's a lot of traffic going through those areas, so I'm just thinking, who's going to clean that mess? Absolutely not.
That's exactly the type of input we need, because it's, I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, track, high school,
No,
junior,
absolutely.
track, cross country kids are not thinking about tracking their money spikes from the foyer on the way back.
And that would be a real big change to have to do that for this.
And we always say no track, no spikes, no making, we really try to, we do though, and I mean, it's said at the coaches meeting, it's said, and kids aren't, they're usually just having their spikes on it. Shoes can be done too, I get your point.
And we always have so many dry football games, so we don't have.
All right, well, there we go.
What's the difference between, my husband was a board member, I know, but what's the difference between tax money and board money? You're saying the board's gonna pay for the baseball field, and the building's gonna be maintained through the school, what's the difference?
I think the easy way to keep it straight is basically, at this point, the Field House project is a donation-based project. We're not planning on doing a tax levy to be able to raise money to help this at this point. And that's what the board's agreed on. To move the baseball field and some of those things are either a safety issue or an issue to be able to help further develop our site. And those things are things I think the board feels like are certainly things that are tax worthy. You know, not that this isn't, but I think at the same time, we're trying to really take a little different approach and a unique approach to try to do this basically through donations instead of putting a tax on people and trying to get it done that way. So that's the difference. I think that's just the easiest way to keep it straight. If the board is doing it, then it's tax dollars.
I don't even like that.
Okay.
I'm John Payer. I'm the varsity baseball coach. I just kind of like to make a comment. I was the varsity baseball coach. So I'm speaking with you. I'll be safe, too. Anybody that spent any time down there in that area in the springtime, whether it's practice or an active game, when we've got a track meet or a track practice, it's only a matter of time before something awful happens with a foul ball. It is, it's ongoing. It limits the baseball program right now to where we can't take on the field practice or live batting practice on the field if there's a track event, a practice, or a meet taking place. When there's a meet, the place is packed, there's hundreds of people down there. Not only that, it's the athletes that are out there actively participating in that event. That's one thing that they don't need to be concerned about, is catching one of the year on the baseball field. We're just having a practice. There's nobody that wants to have anything like that happen. It's a huge safety concern. I'm rambling, but I'm going to try and keep it tight here. We had our first practice tonight. Okay, we practiced on a day off. There was no school today. It was a holiday. We got the 3 to 5 shift. But there was folks after us. There was a whole slew of folks before us. As the week goes on, I'm 6:30 to 8 o'clock. I'm a parent also. I've got student athletes. I don't want my kids out at 9 o'clock driving home from here this time of year. All right, late in the evening, having to hustle home, get their homework done, that kind of thing. It's really in the best interest of public safety here in regards to that gives us more space to cram in all these activities that we have. It's an opportunity to take our athletes up another level with facilities in order to do what they can do in there. And my last comment really is the whole storage thing. I would not want to see any of that turned into storage for the facility. I get it, but that is an indoor athletic facility that can be used by all our athletes in different programs. I just hate to be poor of it to be used for storage when we're fighting for space as it is right now. So that's all I got. It needs to happen. Thank you.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, I guess the biggest thing at this point, as we wrap up the evening, would be to make sure that we get anything that you filled out. Please make sure that we get that. I think it'll be important for us to be able to review and reflect on that. Sometimes there's a lot of great ideas that people don't share in the full group that can have a big impact on things. Again, thank you very much for coming. I don't think this is the last one of these, so I think as this progresses, we'll probably end up having another meeting where we can maybe share out a little bit more details, move forward, start trying to give you guys a little bit more of a concept of what this is going to look like. But again, thank you so much for being here and giving up your Monday evening to help us out with this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.